Hey, I'm Stephanie, and we've recently discussed collecting, completionism, minimalism, and even maximalism. Today's layer is about consumption itself, not about less or more, but about the relationships we build with our stuff. In practice, the conversation around consumption usually splits into two camps. Either you're low consumption or you're not. But most of us don't fit neatly into boxes like that. I know I don't. People sometimes assume I'm a low consumption creator because of the things that I discuss, but I don't think that's the full story, and maybe you felt caught in that same confusion, wondering if you should be aiming for low consumption or feeling guilty because you still want things even during a no-buy. If that sounds familiar, this video is for you. Because here's the truth. I'm not here to tell you how much to own. I'm here to talk about how we decide. And sometimes those decisions lead us to less, but sometimes they don't. Our choices don't happen in a vacuum. They happen in the world we live in. And right now, our world is designed for more. We're living in an era where consumption is at an all-time high. More products than ever are just a few clicks away. You can't sleep at 3 a.m.? You can shop. On the train home after a stressful day of work? You can shop. Finally get through that long emotional tug of war with your teenager? You can shop. It's easier than ever and harder than ever to step back. And when you're stressed or tired, shopping can feel like the fastest way to self-soothe or to become the version of ourselves that we wish we were. Awake, confident, less overwhelmed. It feels like a quick fix, one where we don't have to do any inner work to change our situation. Does that sound familiar to you? What's your 3 a.m. scroll? Is it makeup like me, or maybe clothing or handbags, or maybe kitchen gadgets or books or something entirely different? And what feeling are you usually chasing when you click? I think that's the part we often skip over, the why behind the buy. And that is where intentionality comes in. It isn't about numbers. It isn't about how much or how little you spend or buy or need or want. It's about the why. And our whys change with our lives, our priorities, our schedules, our finances, even our moods. So intentional consumption requires constant check-ins, which makes it a lot like a relationship with your stuff. Some relationships are passionate, some of them are practical, some are complicated. Mine, with cookbooks I never crack open, we're on a break. Does that idea make you uncomfortable? Do you feel like relationships should be reserved for people and pets, not objects? I get that, but here's the truth. If your house were to burn down tomorrow, you would have feelings. Not just relief about the people and pets who got out, but about maybe those great shoes you finally broke in, or the mug that fits your hand just right. Maybe even the discontinued lipstick that always made you feel your best. Those are feelings, which means relationship. Now, low consumption is often defined by numbers, buying less and spending less. And I think that's really valuable for a lot of people and in a lot of different seasons of life. I know that many aspects of it have been and continue to be valuable for me. Intentional consumption can include that, but it is different. It's not about counting things. It's about asking why the things are here. What value do they add? How do they make life better? Low consumption says fewer purchases. Intentional consumption says maybe fewer, maybe more, but definitely better aligned ones. Alignment looks different for all of us. Our season of life, our budget, our capacity, and what we're craving more or less of right now. And just like any relationship, it's not just set it and forget it. We change, so our stuff has to change with us. Sometimes we realize we're smothering each other. That's overwhelm. Other times, maybe we notice that we've drifted apart, and that signals that it's time to declutter. And sometimes we just need boundaries. One of the most helpful ideas that I've borrowed is called the container concept. I believe it first came from Dana K. White. Thank you to the commenter who let me know that. And Dana writes about decluttering, but I've adapted it for makeup. Here's how it works. Each category of makeup has a fixed space. That space is the boundary. So for me, lipsticks live in one container. If that container is full, I don't buy another. It's not about me constantly counting how many lipsticks I have. It's about me letting the container decide what's enough. If you want to see what this looks like across my whole collection, I walk through it in my makeup collection video, so I'll link that here and in the show notes. Sometimes intentional consumption really does mean buying or spending less. For example, that lipstick container I just showed you, it's full, which means when a new lipstick launches, I don't even have to make a decision. The container already answered for me. And that saves me money, but more importantly, it also saves me from overwhelm. I've decided that that is the maximum number of lipsticks that I can realistically enjoy, so I don't want to go beyond that boundary. And you can do this anywhere with anything. One shelf for cookbooks, one drawer for t-shirts, a box for crafting materials. The container is the boundary. Another place where intentionality leads me to less is eyeliner. Now, I love luxury makeup, but I've realized there is no difference in my experience between a $10 pen liner and a $30 one. The packaging is essentially the same no matter what the price point, and I've actually had better luck with drugstore formulas when it comes to liquid liners. For me, eyeliner is a casual fling. It doesn't even come in fancy packaging. So in that case, I just save the money. And that's the beauty of intentionality. Sometimes the most accessible option is the one that offers the most value. Where does spending more not add more joy for you? Whether that's makeup or clothes or kitchen tools or books. Intentional consumption can be glamorous, but it isn't always. Sometimes it's about making trade-offs. Sometimes it means saving on the things that don't add much joy so that you can invest in the things that do. And those might not be associated with shopping at all. They might be experiences or savings or just peace of mind. Intentional consumption doesn't always solve our problems, but it does strengthen our decision-making muscles. When we press pause and look at the why behind the buy, we sometimes discover that the quick fix isn't actually what we want, that short-lived jolt of dopamine isn't going to cut it. Maybe we realize savings are the priority. Maybe we notice that we already have what we need. And yes, oftentimes that lowers consumption. But sometimes we discover that we do want the lipstick, or that we've reached our goals, or that we do have the space to enjoy something new. That's what the Adagio mindset is really about, slowing down long enough to see what we actually want and then making a plan to get there. But sometimes intentional consumption means spending more or buying more. Take lipsticks again. There are a lot of really great options at the drugstore, but if I did have an empty slot in my container and I wanted to buy a new lipstick, I'm much more likely to save up for a beautifully made, weighty tube from a luxury brand than to grab a quick drugstore option. The feel, the design, the component, the ritual, those details matter to me in lipstick where they don't so much in eyeliner. So one lipstick at a higher price is more intentional than a drugstore lippy that I would barely touch. Because lipstick for me is more of a long-term relationship. We go out a lot. Do you have something like that where you would rather save up for one special version than collect a bunch of quick fixes? Or outside of beauty, is there one thing that you'd rather buy once and buy it well than buy over and over again? Another example where intentionality can lead to me buying more is when I purchase things for my channel to review. Every once in a while, you'll see me pick up several items from a single launch, and at first glance, that can really look like over-purchasing. After all, how would buying 3 eyeshadow palettes all at once add value to my life when I only have one face to use them on? But intentionality always depends on context. And in the context of my personal collection, yes, 3 palettes at once would definitely be overkill. But this channel is my biggest hobby, and reviews are how people discover me. Even if you didn't click on a review directly, the algorithm probably brought me to you because my reviews reached enough people to put me on your feed. And side-by-side comparisons make reviews more useful. They add value. Do you have a hobby or passion that changes what feels reasonable for you to buy, where the context makes more sense than the numbers? Because that's the key. Intentional consumption asks, how does what I buy add value? For me, reviews aren't about growing my pile of palettes. They're about growing a conversation. They fund visibility for the channel, but they also let me model intentionality inside a format that people are already searching for. So yes, buying several palettes at once might definitely look like a contradiction, but when you zoom out, it's strategy. My channel choices don't always match my private ones because the context is different. And I think being open about that gap is part of the value of my channel. My dream, of course, is to get to a point where the message becomes more popular than the products, so I can focus even more on these conversations. So sometimes intentional consumption costs more or results in buying more, and that's fine as long as those extra purchases add value. For me, that value is in connecting with you, or fueling creativity, or simply supporting the parts of my life that make it richer. Now, you might be thinking, Stephanie, aren't you just using your channel to justify overpurchasing in your kryptonite category since you've admitted that you've overdone it in the past? And honestly, I can see why it looks that way or how it could become a problem. And it is something I have to be careful of. Now, I know there are times when I might stumble because I'm not a guru. I'm figuring this out in real time, just like you are. But I do try to put measures in place. For example, my channel has a budget that's separate from my own expenses. And I can only use my channel budget for launches that I think will genuinely benefit the channel, not just my personal whims. And if I'm tempted by something that feels more like my makeup monster throwing a tantrum than a thoughtful choice, then that's when I'll turn it into an anti-haul instead. But it's also possible to apply intentional consumption concepts beyond your kryptonite category. For example, right now it's showing up in a much bigger category for me, and that's cameras. And I think it's relevant to share that here just so you can see how I apply it beyond beauty. I'm a musician, so sound quality has always been a priority, including here on my channel. But cameras, I just really don't care about them in the same way. As long as they work, that's fine. And honestly, the more technical settings they have, the more I feel like I've accidentally enrolled in a class I didn't sign up for. Give me 6 nearly identical nude lipsticks and I can tell you the difference instantly. But give me 3 camera lenses and I will just stare at all of them until one of us gives up and goes home. The reality is my current camera is dying, so I have been on an absolute no-buy for months to save for a replacement. And the new one will be fancy, not because I care about the camera itself, but because I care about the audio and the workflow. The purchase will include an audio interface and cables and all the little doodads that make the system run smoothly. It's going to be a lot of money and a lot of gear, frankly, that I'm not even really all that interested in. But here's why it's going to be intentional. It's not about the camera setup itself, it's about what the camera will give me back. It'll give me a much faster workflow, which means more time to focus on the conversations I'm having with you instead of juggling files and syncing things and fighting with my broken tech. And more offline time with my family because my tools won't be slowing me down. I'm not buying a fancy camera. I'm buying time. My camera will be like my long-term partner. It won't be a passionate relationship, but it will help me hold down the fort. So yes, sometimes intentional consumption does mean spending more or owning more, but the success isn't measured by price tags or item counts. It's measured by what those choices give us back. So what's the camera in your life? The one thing you don't really love, but investing in it makes everything else run more smoothly. So where does that leave us? For me, intentional consumption isn't about being low consumption or high consumption. It isn't about the number of things or the amount of money spent. It's about the why. Sometimes the why means buying less, like when my lipstick container is full, or spending less, like when I know luxury eyeliners just don't add enough value for me to be worth it, so I stick with drugstore liners. Sometimes the why means spending more, like splurging on one special lipstick, or maybe buying more, like when my channel buys a whole launch for review. And sometimes the why isn't about fun purchases at all. It's about investing in tools like my new camera that give me more time and space for what matter most to me. And that's the point. Intentional consumption is very personal and it's very messy. It shifts as we shift, and it requires constant check ins because our relationship with stuff is real and it's ever changing. It might not be romantic, but it's definitely emotional. And at the end of the day, intentionality is about alignment. Choosing what serves us, what brings us joy, what clears the way for the rest of life to feel a little richer. It's not about being perfect, it's just about being more aligned. And since this is about alignment, I would love to hear how you think about it. Do you see intentional consumption as always leading to less? Or are there areas in your life where intentionality actually means spending more or buying more? And remember, your relationship with stuff can be with anything, makeup, but also shoes or stationery, skincare, or bags or books. And if you want to take this further, I've put together a simple worksheet for my patrons. It's just a handful of questions to help you map out your own relationship with stuff, whether that's makeup or books or clothes or kitchen gadgets. Answering those questions can help you become more intentional about what and why you buy. You can find it in Club Adagio. The link will be in the show notes and in the pinned comment. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more Adagio content, please like, comment, subscribe, and check out this video here. Thanks for hanging out, and to all of my patrons and channel members, including my Adagio angels, for making content like this possible. I hope we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.